Should you become a glazier in 2022? In this video, we're going to help you figure out whether this particular occupation is for you. We're going to go over salaries, the injury rate, the job market, the demand for glaziers, and more. This is actually a great occupation if you're not really interested in going to college, which we'll get into a little bit later in this course. But first, what is a glazier? Glaziers install glass in windows, skylights, storefronts, and display cases. They can also be involved in installing glass on building fronts, interior walls, ceilings, and tabletops. This is definitely not a well-known trade. Glaziers are often following blueprints and specifications, just like a lot of the other trades. Before installing new glass, often they actually have to remove the existing glass. They also might be charged with cutting glass to very specific sizes and shapes. After installing, they often have to weatherproof and weather seal around the edges to seal the joints. Because glass is pretty much everywhere, glaziers can work in the residential space, the commercial space, or even the public space, like in schools and public buildings. Not many people actually know about this particular occupation, but just like many of the other trades, often you might actually have to be licensed in certain states, and there's certain certifications that can help you start your own business, be a contractor, and more. This is where a company like Upstrive can come in and help you pass your exams and maybe take a couple courses or even meet with a mentor to help you along in this particular career path. Upstrive's mission is to help you prepare, pass, and earn. You can either find a tutor that has decades worth of experience in different trades, but there's also a bookstore to help you get certain contractor exams and certifications. All you have to do is type in glazing in the search bar, and there's a bunch of courses related to, there's also a location. So like Montana glazing certification, Pennsylvania glazing certification. So a lot, just like many of the trades, counties and states, and they often have written tests, but every state or county is a little bit different. Check out the links below for Upstrive's webinar and or newsletter. So one of the big attractions to becoming a glazier is the fact that the barrier to entry is pretty low. And this is actually among all the trades. People become electricians, they become plumbers, they become HVAC techs, because none of those require a college degree. It doesn't require you to go deep into debt. And this occupation is very similar. According to the Occupational Information Network, 23% of glaziers don't have a high school diploma or GED, 60% do have a high school diploma or GED, and 17% have a high school diploma plus some kind of certificate. So this is a great occupation to go into if you're not really interested in getting an associate's degree and or a bachelor's degree. You can pretty much start work immediately. There's a lot of apprenticeships around the country, and for certain job postings, they require going through that apprenticeship process. But I'm going to show you in a second that even there's actually some job postings out there that don't require this. One of my favorite ways of looking at different job postings, just type in the occupation, jobs, and then the location. I'm just going to put in the United States. Then just click in here, and they have so many ways to filter different jobs. So one of the great parts about Google is you can look at a lot of different job postings around the United States or in your local county or state. So here's one in Novo Construction in Washington, D.C. No mention of education, no mention of even high school. And it's no degree is mentioned, just 4 years with custom storefront and curtain wall system, whatever that means. And you can kind of just go through and look at different job postings. And a lot of these don't require a degree, or there's not even any mention of a high school diploma. But I have seen both. I've seen job postings where they really want someone that's gone through an apprenticeship program. Possibly the better jobs are available to those kinds of people. So definitely keep that in mind, but also just to get into the occupation, there's definitely some job postings out there that are open to people with just a high school diploma. Next, we're gonna get into the demographics of glaziers. What kind of people actually become glaziers? And this is kind of interesting. This is actually one of the most male-dominated occupations out there. 98% of people in this occupation identify as male, 33% identify as Hispanic or Latino, and they break that out from being white, black, or Asian, but 85% describe themselves as white and 12% describe themselves as African American. Some people think this is actually kind of a deadly occupation. In 2020, there was 4 fatalities of glaziers. One person was killed by getting hit by an object, and one person was actually killed by, they just said violence by person or animal, whatever that means. So this definitely isn't a dangerous occupation. 4 fatalities it's not high compared to, say, truck drivers, fishermen, loggers, especially construction laborers, but accidents do happen and people do get killed every once in a while, and pretty much in many different occupations. But glaziers also have a pretty high injury and illness rate, and this is definitely looked at every single year by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. For the average occupation, the rate is 120 injuries or illnesses per 10,000 people. With glaziers, it's about 174. So it's slightly elevated, and not slightly elevated, it's definitely elevated. So the injury rate in this particular occupation is pretty high. I actually just did auto body techs, and their injury rate is actually much lower than this particular occupation. For some reason, a lot more people get injured in this particular job. Next, we're gonna get into the wages. How much money do they tend to make, and which parts of the country actually tend to pay glaziers more than others. Now, compared to the average occupation, glaziers do pretty well. In 2020, the average base salary was $50,970. This was more than auto body techs, auto service mechanics, diesel mechanics, and this was more than small engine mechanics. But it was less than aircraft mechanics, claims adjusters and examiners, and heavy vehicle mechanics. And these are just base salaries. This is actually before overtime and any kind of benefits. In 2016, the average base salary was $47,260. There wasn't much wage growth from 2016 to 2018, but in 2020, wages reached $50,970. So wage growth does seem to be picking up a little bit, especially in the past couple of years, 2019 and 2020. Now, unfortunately, if you're pretty entrepreneurial minded, according to the government, only about 3% of people in this occupation have their own business. So there's a lot more auto body mechanics, there's a lot more auto mechanics, diesel mechanics, small engine mechanics, heavy vehicle mechanics that tend to own their own business. So this might not be the best occupation if your dream is to own your own shop. And there's one more thing regarding base salaries. There's actually certain parts of the country that tend to pay people in this occupation a lot more than others. Actually, we found that Salem, Oregon is actually one of the best places to live for people in this occupation. The average base salary in 2020 was $85,640. And if you include benefits like healthcare, sick leave, that brings actually total compensation to $111,000. And this is before any kind of overtime. There's just definitely certain parts of the country, no matter the occupation, that tend to pay more than others. So if you're really interested in a certain occupation, there's certain places you can go, the BLS website, to really research which areas of the country really pay a lot more than others. Next, we're going to focus on demand. What is the demand for people in this particular occupation? Unfortunately, glaziers haven't seen too much job growth over the past couple of years. In 2016, there was 47,140 employed. This rose to 52,190 in 2020, about 5,000 more in about 5 years. So whenever I look at a certain occupation, I try to look at job postings on different job boards to gauge how competitive it is, like how much demand there is for different professionals and different occupations. So I went on Glassdoor and I only found 556 job postings. On Indeed.com, I found 1,148 job postings for glaziers in the United States. And on LinkedIn, I found 257 job postings. So when you compare the number of job postings against the number of employed, this actually looks really challenging to get a certain job. This could be the season. Maybe this is a very seasonal occupation and most of the hiring occurs in the summer or the spring, or maybe it's just this certain time period. There's actually quite a supply chain crisis going on right now. So maybe businesses just aren't hiring a lot of glaziers right now. But for right now, in this period of time, it looks extremely challenging to get a job in this occupation. So definitely be aware of that before jumping into this occupation. Although the barrier to entry is so low, you're not spending 4 years or 6 years getting a degree to try and go into an occupation. You can try and get into this occupation immediately, or you can try and go through an apprenticeship. So I hope you found this particular video helpful and helped you figure out whether this particular occupation is for you. I have a lot of other content on a lot of different other careers and occupations. So if you're lost, there's plenty of free things to watch on my particular YouTube channel. If you're a glazier, definitely leave a comment down below. What do you like about this particular occupation? What do you dislike about this particular occupation? Let us know down in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.